I'm Diane Sayre, and as Bill Roberts probably has told you, I am one of the 6 LaRouche Democrats, and I'm running in the state of New Jersey. And LaRouche has recently redefined New Jersey as part of the Midwest, but I'll get to that later. I'm in Paterson, New Jersey. I'm standing next to a statue of Alexander Hamilton, and the Great Falls behind me were discovered by Hamilton and George Washington and Lafayette during the time of the American Revolution as they were traveling through the state. Now, what Hamilton did here was upon seeing the falls, obviously this was a great source of power, and Paterson, New Jersey was the first major industrial center of the United States. George Washington, before Hamilton set up the Society for Useful Manufactures here in Paterson, actually traveled all the way out west, and in fact one of the places he went was Detroit, and it was Washington's view that Detroit should be a major center of commerce and trade, and from that point on he was always working on canals and other means of transportation to link this area. So LaRouche's idea of Massachusetts and New Jersey as part of the Midwest, bordered, I guess, by Detroit on the western side, actually may have originated with George Washington. Now, Hamilton is a very, very important figure for the 6 LaRouche candidates because it was Hamilton who set up the idea of the national bank, and most importantly, the question of credit. The idea today that people have of money is British. It's a Roman Empire idea. It's an idea that the source of wealth is something other than human creativity. And what Hamilton did when we had just completed the American Revolution is he insisted that the federal government actually absorb the debt of the states, which was a very controversial idea. But he knew that if each state was allowed to have its varied amounts of debt, that there was nothing that would hold the states together, and there was bound to be a continued attack from the British Empire, if not militarily, economically, and politically. So Hamilton convinced the members of the other states that the federal government should absorb the debt, and he used the debt as a form of credit to build infrastructure and develop the nation. Today, what you have is complete insanity coming from the Obama administration, as from the Bush administration previously, that the source of wealth is money, and the more money you print, the more wealth you have, so that Obama could say in his so-called State of the Union address that we are now in a great recovery because the stock market is going up. I wanted to report to you that I was at a class in a university here in New Jersey, and a young man whose family runs a convenience store reported that the price of a bag of rice in his store has gone from $10 to $25, that the price of tortillas has gone from 75 cents to $2.25, and that the price of sugar has quadrupled. And now this is extremely important that people understand. We are now in hyperinflation. And what we have been getting from some people among union officials and others when we talk to them about Glass-Steagall is that stopping the bailouts might be bad because their pensions might lose money. Well, is your pension going to increase by 4-fold or 100-fold? Because if the hyperinflation is not stopped, your pension or whatever money you think you have will go the way of what people thought they had in savings in the Weimar Republic. Your pension of $100,000 will be worth $100 or $10. That's what we're heading for. That's why it's urgent that our nation return to the principles of Alexander Hamilton and get away from this crazy idea that money has any intrinsic value, that the value is in the minds of the American people and in what they produce and what they create. And that's why the 6 of us are saying, number one, that Barack Obama has to be removed from office, that it's not just his health care plan, which is modeled on the Nazi T4 plan, or his bailouts that are causing hyperinflation, but where you see his hatred of the principles under which our nation was founded was in his shutdown of the space program, because that is an area where the United States led the world. Luckily, in the last 2 weeks, Phil Angelides, the former treasurer of the state of California, and his commission have released their findings on the cause of the blowout of the U.S. economy in 2008. And what they present actually puts an official seal on everything that LaRouche has said over the last 30 years in his economic forecasts. And their conclusion is that the crisis was entirely avoidable. It could have been prevented, and that the bailouts are not helping. And further, that the situation now is actually worse than it was when they did the report, because nothing of what they identify as the causes of the crisis has been addressed. And in fact, what you have today is more money concentrated in the hands of fewer people, so that what we are headed for in the future, if nothing is changed, is far worse than what we have seen. In fact, this system itself actually is dead, and what you're looking at is a corpse, so that what you think you're going to save is already gone. And that's why it's absolutely urgent that Glass-Steagall be reinstated. This is the message that I'll be taking tomorrow to Trenton, New Jersey, where thousands of labor union leaders and other activists will be gathered to welcome some of the leadership from Wisconsin who are coming in. As people may know, our lovely Governor Christie is being promoted as the Republican nominee for president. So it's absolutely right that people should join forces here in the state of New Jersey to set the record straight. And the message that the six of us are taking to these demonstrations is that there is nothing to be done on a local or state level. As long as we continue the policy of Obama, the resources simply do not exist, and the policy is mass murder against the population. If we reinstate the Glass-Steagall Act as FDR intended, and which is a successor to the legacy of Alexander Hamilton, what that means is the nation can be relieved of about $17 trillion of debt from paying back papered waste, toxic gambling debts, and that credit can be made available for emergency funding to the states so that we don't shut down police and fire stations all over the country, we don't close down the public schools, and what we actually could begin doing is to launch the North American Water and Power Alliance, which calls for building a massive rail grid across the country so that our triangle of Boston, New Jersey, and Detroit can manufacture and ship the necessary material, machine tools into Idaho, which is the hub of the project. And when that's done, we'll have a high-speed rail link between Paterson and Detroit, which will allow us to travel that distance within about 2.5 hours. Boston will be about another hour, and we can finally complete the consolidation of the western part of the United States, the Midwestern part to the east, as George Washington intended. Thank you.